Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This time out we have a new book announced, this time from Penguin Random House is the first one to put it up. And it's a book we've seen before, but a new edition of it. So Avatar The Last Airbender, The Promise, Omnibus. So it is a new book. You can see here it has a 2020 release date. It's actually the furthest date into the future that we have for a Dark Horse comic, so that's an interesting one, and that they're deciding to do this. You can see the cover is the same as the library edition cover for The Promise that we got when that book was released. This is not the same book. We'll get into the details that confirm it's not the same book under a different title, but the library edition, it collects all three parts, has this cover, but it also has annotations. It's a bigger book. It has annotations from the author and stuff like that, the artists, giving commentary as the book progresses, and then there's some concept art extras at the back. This book is not going to have any of that, because the idea for omnibuses is that it's meant to be a sort of cheaper collection of a series, and that's exactly what this is. So you can see here, available for the first time in omnibus format, which I think confirms to us it is for sure a brand new kind of edition type thing that they're doing. It collects parts 1 to 3 of the series. That makes complete sense. The interesting thing is when we get down here to the product details, you can see here. So paperback, $24.99. And that is, I think, a decent price for 3 books. An individual part of a comic, like the upcoming Runes of the Empire Part 3, is $10.99. So that means if you were to just buy the 3 parts of The Promise, you'd be paying, if you paid full retail price, basically $33. So this is a reduced price for the collection. So that's good to see. I kind of wonder, like, if they absolutely had to, could they do, just $20? But, $25 is fine, I guess. So yeah, June 30th, 2020, it is Dark Horse Books, of course. 224 pages also makes sense because this is where we, I suppose, get the confirmation that we're probably not getting any of those extras, because each part of The Promise has 72 pages of like story content that is literally just the start of the comic, end of the comic in terms of the panels. And then that means that, that means 3 by 72 is 216. That leaves 8 pages remaining. That's obviously going to be our kind of credits page type thing, the page that has the usual kind of, just referencing everyone, the title page. It'll have the pages where we transition from part 1 to part 2, and we get to see the cover for part 1, cover for part 2, cover for part 3, of course. And it leaves no space, I think, for the annotations and the concept art stuff. So that stuff, I think, will remain exclusive to the library edition, which is meant to be the sort of deluxe version of the book. This is literally just, you want the 3 parts in one book. Here it is. 6 by 9 is also interesting because that confirms to us the size of this book. 6 by 9 is the same size as a standard part of one of these comics. You can see it confirms it here. Runes of the Empire Part 3, an individual part is 6 by 9. This omnibus is also going to be 6 by 9. That means it's going to have the same size, that's sort of smaller than a typical comic size that the Avatar comics tend to have. It's not going to be the same size as the library edition. You can see here on the upcoming Imbalanced Library Edition that its size is 9 by 12. So this book, the omnibus, clearly isn't that. That means this very much literally is the 3 individual parts just put together in one book. The only thing that's not really confirmed in all of this is the cover going to be hardcover or soft cover. I'd be shocked if it was hardcover. The idea usually with these omnibuses is that you're saving on the cost of it being collected by having it have the soft cover. So I think that's what they'll do here. This will very much be just, your soft cover version of the library edition without the extras. So that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to see some actually kind of in-hand shots of this, see what this actually looks like in person. One, to see what that big hardcover library edition cover looks like on a smaller book, and then just to see how how the binding looks like that, like a book that small but like really really thick, and it just be kind of all bound together. That's going to be pretty cool to see what exact way it looks when it's done. But yeah, it is just a reprint of the comics, and I assume this is something they're going to be doing for the other ones as the months pass. Like I wouldn't be at all surprised if we in a couple of months see also go up in Penguin Random House the Search Omnibus, scheduled for like maybe November or December 2020 or something like that, and then they just gradually go through them. So we get the Rift later on, Smoke and Shadow, North and South, Imbalance eventually, even though obviously that book is just finished, but I think it will get one eventually as well. So I'm actually pretty positive on this. I think this is a good thing to do because, of course, as an Avatar content creator, I do have a large backlog of videos, and a lot of that includes videos like how to get into the Avatar comics, what is the reading order, and a lot of times the questions I get in those videos are like, I'm trying to buy these books, but like the Search especially, like part 1 is out of stock, so that means I have to get the library edition, but the library edition of the Search is out of stock everywhere, nowhere has it. How do I get a physical copy of this book? These releases, I think these omnibuses, and them being planned this way, I think it's going to solve that problem. I think there will be no shortage of stock of this kind of cheaper collected edition, and it probably means that, you know, they might stop printing the individual parts of the early books because they have these ones going out. So that's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be fun to see how that works in terms of like, will the individual parts of the comics sort of like gain value or stuff like that? Will the library editions gain value if they maybe stop printing them because this book exists? Who really knows on that sort of stuff? But for people who just want a physical copy of the comics, don't care about extras, this is exactly what those people want. I do often see a lot of criticism of just the price of the library editions for just being a bit too much, for the extras not being that groundbreaking. So I'm very excited for this. I think I'm definitely going to triple dip on the Promise. Even though I have the 3 individual parts, I have the library edition, I'm going to support the comics and support this sort of stuff by getting this. I love the Promise as a comic. We did a podcast review on it. Was it last week? Very, very recently. I'll link that in the description if you want to check out the podcast review we did, taking a look back on The Promise. Very fun to go back to. It's a great book. I think a lot of people maybe haven't read it in a while. Compared to the recent comics, The Promise just is brilliant. It really stands out compared to everything else. I think it's excellent. The Search, of course, is still, I think, the best Avatar comic, but don't sleep on The Promise. The Promise is very, very good. And especially for the first Avatar comic, it started off very well. So this is something to keep an eye out on for sure, to see if when they announce the Search one, and that's probably going to be the big one people are excited for. Finally, there's a more recent thing about like, hey, they're reprinting the comic that explains what happened to Zuko's mom. Like, can we stop asking this question now? It's 2019. We've known for a while what happened, so that'll be good to get. But yeah, other than that, let's quickly go down what the schedule of books looks like with this now added to the sort of roster. So in terms of Dark Horse books, the next thing we obviously turn our attention to is going to be Runes of the Empire Part 3, the book that's going to wrap up Runes of the Empire, February 25th, 2020 for that book. Hopefully it delivers on the great setup from Part 1 and Part 2. But yeah, that is the next sort of thing on the horizon for Avatar and Korra comics. Then we have this book here, which I obviously showed before, Imbalance Library Edition. So the deluxe collected edition of Imbalance. This isn't an omnibus, as we covered here. This is coming out May 26th, 2020. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what way they do the extras in this one. Are there annotations? Are there not annotations? After the Turf Wars book didn't have annotations and stuff like that. So that's that. And then now we add this to the list. June 30th, we have our Promise Omnibus kind of reprinting here, collecting in a cheaper format. So that's very cool. We obviously know there's going to be a Runes of the Empire Library Edition as well. I am assuming that will probably be October, November, maybe December 2020 when that will get confirmed. Leaving, of course, the only big thing for like 2020 is what are the new comics we're going to be getting in 2020. We're getting very close to the end of the year at this point. Still no announcement yet about the next Avatar comic, even though it's been a few weeks since Imbalance ended. We know that, you know, the Faith Aaron Hicks has been working on drafts for the next book. We're just waiting for the announcement, and it kind of has to deliver it. It's building up now, the hype for what the next Avatar book is. But also, we're also getting very close to the end of Runes of the Empire. We also now need to know what's next for Korra Comics. So if there is an announcement, I think we can potentially expect both of them to happen at the same time. I haven't heard really any news about like if Michelle Wong is going to be leaving the comics or anything like that. Well, we have to wait and see, of course, because as we go into 2020, of course, the Netflix show is going to become an even bigger project as like they really move into production on it and not just the planning stuff. So Mike and Brian might be more busy. I hope the comics don't slow down because I think that would be a really, really bad thing to happen. But we're still waiting for the announcements. There's no big convention coming up, so there's nothing that there's nothing that to me suggests this is when they're going to make the announcement. It's just, I get the impression some news site is just going to put up an article one day and we're going to know then. Like Comic Book Resources, I think IGN have potentially done some of these comic reveals in the past. A site like that, a big site, they're going to get the reveal for the Avatar comic. Maybe some other site will get the Korra comic reveal. Maybe they'll both be done at the same time. Who really knows? But potentially, this going up online, the Promise Omnibus, finally the product listing going up, maybe suggests they're getting the next batch of books ready in terms of the marketing materials for them, product listings and stuff like that. So maybe this suggests the comic announcements are coming very, very shortly. I hope it does. But yeah, that's been the video. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on the idea of the omnibus style reprints? Are you interested in them at all? What do you think they suggest? And then, when do you think the next Avatar comic and Korra comic are going to be announced? Other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.